of the heart flows the issues of life. And many of these issues stem from one's emotional, mental, and spiritual condition. Such issues may oppress, stifle, and even stagnate one from living a healthy and fulfilling life. So how does one progress past such issues and achieve a state of emotional, mental, and spiritual healing? There's help, so open your heart and prepare your mind. It's time for healing to take place in your life. You're in tuned to Talking with Dr. Toy, a holistic approach to emotional healing. And now, your host, licensed professional counselor, Dr. Toy Lisa Mitchell.
It's just me and you. I feel so lost, 'cause I don't know what to do.
Well, good Sunday morning. Thank you so much for tuning in to Talking with Dr. Toy. Comes your way every Sunday morning. Hey, I want to check in. How are you doing? I hope all is well, and I'm hoping that you're implementing those self-care strategies that we've been talking about. I hope you're doing it. Remember, I always want to give my purpose to provide a holistic approach to emotional healing. Therefore, my mission to provide a holistic and restorative therapeutic approach in addressing and resolving issues that adversely affect the emotional, psychological, spiritual, and physical well-being of individuals who desire to enhance their quality of life. I want to do a self-care check. How are you? And what did you do for self-care this week? Remember, we've been talking about just small things. One of the things that I have definitely been advocating for is for you to take 2 days a week to engage in some reflection time. Yeah, to engage in some reflection time, 2 days a week, right? For 5 minutes. And that's what I've just been advocating, just 5 minutes. Can you find 5 minutes just to connect with yourself? I'm telling you, it goes a long way for you to stay connected with yourself, as well as to be aware of what are some of the things that you are experiencing, why you are experiencing, and what you need to fill your cup. I can't tell you how many times I'm hearing people just say that I don't have the capacity. There's so much going on in my life right now. I'm overwhelmed. I lack capacity. And I know sometimes what we do is like, well, let's just keep it moving. Let's just keep it moving. And I know for survival's sake, for functioning's sake, we have got to keep it moving. But I do want to let you know that if we keep it moving without filling up, without filling our cup, without re-energizing ourselves, then we are operating on E. And what does that mean? That means that our system is taking a hit, whether that be anxiety, whether that be stress, whether that be, and I was talking with someone, whether that be where I'm just paralyzed, just frozen. I just don't know what to do. So I'm not doing anything. These are indications that your system is overwhelmed. And when we keep moving to the point that we break down, this is very toxic for our systems. And even though it may be a mode of survival, it's definitely not getting us into the place of thriving. And some of us may see, well, I don't see a way out. I don't know a way out. Now, here's what I would encourage you to do. Sometimes it is difficult to see the light when it seems like we're in a tunnel. And so part of what I'm encouraging you to do is just to have a glimmer, a flicker of light. And that can be that reflection time that you engage in just for 5 minutes. And I'm encouraging you, that's an aspect of self-care, right? What have we talked about? We've talked about this definition, not my own, but the practice of taking an active role in protecting your own well-being and happiness, taking an active role and cultivating that practice. And that can be just connecting and having that 5 minutes of reflection time. You know, for the month, I've been talking about just this is for us. specifically geared towards Black women due to the season of what's taken place in this nation. And we've talked a lot about what self-care may mean for Black women, right? Preserving your own well-being, health, and happiness. But it's also too, and I love what this author stated, that it's more than just taking a yoga class, getting a pedicure. It's more than that, but it is inclusive of taking care of our bodies, making sure that we're eating the best foods that we can, right? Because in this space that we're in, economic hard times are hitting many of us where we can't afford maybe the things that we used to be able to afford. So trying to make do with what is. But yet and still, one of the things that I also am encouraging you is that when we talk about self-care, I love it. It says this: to be whole, we must affirm for ourselves our worth in a world that doesn't often see it. Does that make sense? I love this. This is by Melva Young. She says this: self-care means defining and naming ourselves and understanding our own value, right? To be safe, we must be careful of how we are perceived and strategic about what we say and do. And self-care means finding or building a space where we can just be who we are without fear of judgment. I love this, right? To be included, we must stand up for ourselves. Self-care means finding our voice and lifting them in defense of ourselves. These are some aspects of self-care that I do believe will cultivate things within our system that's going to be healthy and helpful for us, really to connect aspects of our identity outside of what we do, but how we are striving to be in this space and what is true and what is authentic for me, right? And so again, meaningful self-care, it is really a lifeline in this space that we're in. And I'm hoping that you experiment with some things that are healthy, right? That are helpful, but try some things, because one of the things that I hear often is that, well, I don't have time. And some of this is because we're in survival mode. And when you're in survival mode, what is the priority? I need to survive. But we also know that being elevated in that survival mode for a long period of time, it is definitely harmful and toxic for our systems. So how do we get off the hamster wheel? What do we do? Because again, having conversations with individuals, one person said, well, life is not going to stop. You're right. And I want to validate that. You're right. Life is going to keep coming. Right? As we say, life be life, and right? It's going to keep coming. And so when we talk about that circle of control, some of the things that are coming are taking place in our lives, these external factors, some of them are outside of our control. But what is within our sphere of influence is how we respond to it. I am encouraging you, don't allow these external things to take away your power, because you do have a say in this. Yes, it's stressful and we may not be able to stop the external stressors, but can I take care of my system as I'm dealing with all of this? Yes. Can I find 2 or 3 minutes to take a pause and take a breath? Yes. That's going to bring more energy into my system. That's going to open up more capacity. So maybe I can be a bit more creative. Are those some of the things that I can implement in my life? Yes. Yes, yes, and yes. Right? And so that's why this is important. It is a lifeline. It is fuel for your system. And I'm encouraging you, please take care to implement self-care. It is a lifeline. And then, of course, community care. We already talked about that, but I love this because that balance, people committed to leveraging their privilege to be there for one another in various ways. How did you show up for others? And how did you allow others to show up for you? Leaning in. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that, right? How do we lean into those support systems that are safe, that are nurturing, that are affirming, right, for us? How do we lean into those systems, those support systems? Because that is important as well. So I do want you to definitely process and think about, where's my community? Who's my tribe? And if you're struggling with that, my hope is that we can take some time in that reflection, because maybe sometimes we're in survival mode. We may not be able to readily identify our human resources that are available for us. Right. And I know we've talked about this before. Trauma can give us a lens where we don't see people that are there for us. And we may not be able to see or experience it because of our own trauma responses. But just because they may not be perfect, but they have an intent of care and love for you, and they're willing to be in it with you. And if you don't have that in your life right now, because I know sometimes it is a struggle to even experience social support, my hope is that your goal will be to open yourself up and really kind of be intentional. Just like this aspect of self-care, some part of your self-care may be being intentional about seeking and really connecting to some social supports that will be available for you. Now, listen, that can be a risk of being disappointed, right? There can be a risk of being rejected. And sometimes because we don't want to experience the rejection or the disappointment, we just stay stuck. We stay in paralysis. But here's one of the things that I think is very helpful for us to realize, that if I don't move, if I stay here, am I getting what I need? You know, it reminds me of the Bible passage where it talks about those leopards that were in a city where there was a famine and all the things. And one of the things that one of the lepers said, that listen, if we stay here, if we stay here, we're going to die. We're going to die. If we stay here, we're going to die. So why not go into the enemy's camp to see what they may have in their camp? And so that particular story is in 2 Kings 7:3, right? They were sitting at the city gate, starving to death. And so one of the things they said was this: going into Samaria meant dying from extreme famine inside, right? Or surrendering to the enemy. The Syrian or Aramean army was a risky gamble. So this is what they said. Listen, they reasoned, if they spare us, we live. If they kill us, we die anyway. So they decided to walk into the enemy camp. They made a move. And sometimes that's what trauma and that's what being in survival mode will do. It will freeze us where we're scared or paralyzed to make a move. But if we don't move in a direction that can be helpful for our lives, then we're not going to increase our capacity. We may not get to fill our cup with things that are going to be helpful for us, or lean into social support systems that can help carry us, that can even help assist in bringing aspects of healing. So what am I encouraging you to do? I'm encouraging you that sometimes taking a risk, yes, we have to weigh it. We want to take an educated risk, right? But sometimes there is a place in our lives where we are being asked to take a step. Take a step. And when we take that step, listen, my encouragement is that part of what will encourage you is that you see that you were able to make a move. And that I'm hoping that you connect with things that are going to be helpful for you. So today, even when we talk about aspects of community care and cultivating that self-awareness, I want to talk about another thing today. We've been really working from this article, and I love this by Melvina Young, where she talks about self-care for my sisters, letting the strong Black woman rest. And so there were several areas that we've already talked about, unpacking the strong Black woman myth. These areas, we talked about prioritizing mental wellness and self-care. We talked about cultivating Black girl joy. And then last week, I really talked about this aspect of it's a systems failure, because so much is happening in this nation, in this country. And one demographic that is experiencing the damage of this are Black women. And so we need to really think about things from a systemic and structural level as well, because it's not just our own individual efforts that we're trying to implement to keep us going, to keep life going for our families. But there's things that are acting upon us, and all the things that are also a part of this insidious aspect of really and what I call it as well is really targeting the dignity of Black women. And so I talked about that last week. And so this week, here's what I want to focus on. I love this part where it talks about self-care and it connects with your work, our career. This is one of the statements: owning your voice and your career. We know that microaggressions take place within various organizations, microaggressions against women of color, people of color, and all of that. And when we walk into when we are in these spaces of work, it can really be wearing and tearing on our emotional system, on our mental system, on in our physical lives as well. And so one of the things that I always want to encourage you, and this is something that we have to really deal with, because many of us spend more time at work than we do with our families, right? And many may be working two jobs, 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet. So we're spending a lot of time at work. And when we experience as women of color, microaggressions, those things it talks about kind of dying by 1,000 paper cuts, just like cutting you in various places. And sometimes it's not as overt, but it's the covert things that really kind of get to you, right? Where there's maybe possibility of gaslighting, that what you see, that someone is trying to convince you that what you see is not what you see, especially when it comes to aspects of racism and all the things. And so even questioning your credentials to be in the place that you are, questioning your capacity to do it, right? And even in this notion that many of us have been raised with, saying that we've got to be twice as good, twice as better as everyone else. So what does that bring? That brings across a weight, a burden that many women of color, Black women, are carrying with them every time they enter into the space of work. And so sometimes what we do is that we enact strategies, coping strategies, protective strategies to help protect us from the microaggressions, right? We come in masked up. We come in to some degree code switching, knowing that we are code switching just so that we can self-preserve aspects of our peace, our sanity. And so some of what happens too is that we shrink ourselves minimize ourselves. We go under the radar because, again, we don't want to be noticed, right? And we know that some of the microaggressions and all of these things that are taking place in our work are informed by these really toxic and negative stereotypes of Black women that are insidious, implicit bias, right? And then the gaslighting that you don't see what you see. So some of what's happening is that when we are in those spaces, and because we may spend more time in those spaces, that impacts our system. It can impact our view of ourselves, right? And we wonder why that when we finally do get home, we can't rest. We take work with us. And there may be just a burden and or even a dread of returning back to the space. Because again, what's the premise? The lack of emotional safety. The lack of safety to be authentically you. The lack of safety to make a mistake, right? Because in some ways, because there may be unrealistic expectations of Black women, that Black women can afford to make similar mistakes that other people can make without getting the wrath and condemnation, right? So that's another weight, that aspect of perfectionism, that I've got to be perfect, because if I'm not perfect, I will get penalized more so than the one who may have who may receive the grace and the okay that, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, you can, that's okay that you missed that. It's okay that you didn't get that right. It's okay, but not okay for us. So how do we navigate that space, right? Those spaces that really can, in many ways, chip away at aspects of our identity, right? That can chip away at aspects of our confidence and competence, right? Well, in some ways where there is this objectification instead of valuing our humanity. And now listen, when we talk about that circle of control, when we go into these spaces, there are things that, yes, we cannot control. And sometimes just the perception of powerlessness. Oh my goodness, right? The perception of just, I have to take this. I have no power. Oh, it can be gut-wrenching. Where we may stuff our emotions because it's too painful to connect with them. And when we stuff our emotions because they're too painful to connect with, guess what's happening? It's coming out in other ways, right? Whether it be in our eating, whether it be in our isolating, whether it be in our over functioning and over compensating. Our inability to say no, our inability to implement practices that protect our time and protect our peace, right? I was talking with someone just recently, and we were talking about this aspect of, yes, I'm doing the thing, right? I am going to work. I'm doing all these things. I'm working all these hours. I'm doing the thing and I'm functioning. But the thing is, the work has become the priority where there is no other life outside of the work. And so really this practice of just over indulging in work where it's the priority and your life is on suspended because we have elevated work in that sense. that can be problematic too. It can almost be like a trauma response in ways. And so what happens is that we're pouring everything into work, but we're disconnecting and not really cultivating a relationship or energy within ourselves to deal with our stuff. Because emotions just don't take a hiatus. We can stuff them, but they're still in our system. And so has work become the opiate? Right? Well, I'm good at what I do. And sometimes what happens is that when we're good at what we do and we feel like that's something that we can control, it takes priority. But where is your life? When was the last time that you laughed? When was the last time that you really rested? When was the last time that you really connected and was present with the people in your life? Right? And so when we talk about owning your voice in your career, I do want to accentuate this first point, is that you are not your work. I know in some ways battle with the imposter syndrome and all of this, and sometimes getting those accolades and those aspects of praise and affirmations based on what we do when people have no clue as to who you are. And not only do they not have a clue as to who you are, they don't care as long as you produce. As long as you produce and are productive. But what are you producing in your own life? What are you neglecting and negating in your own life? What are you cultivating in your own life, in your spirit, in your body? What are you cultivating? Or is everything that you have to give, is that your work? That everything you have to give is going towards this work, but not towards yourself. Number one, you are more than just what you do. And it's important to cultivate time in your space, in your schedule, to connect with the various dimensions of who you are, right? So, number one, you're not solely what you do. There are other aspects to your identity. And my hope is that you will begin to, first of all, anchor in that and explore that. Number two, I love this. It talks about discussing your right to take up space. Oh, wow. Wow. That connects to your humanity. That I have a right to be here, to take up space in this meeting, to take up space in this organization. I have a right to be here, to take up space. And knowing, in spite of maybe some of the external messages and microaggressions of you don't belong here. This space wasn't designed for you. Right? Wasn't meant for you. However, you have a right to take up space because of your personhood, your unconditional worth, right? The image of God that is within you. Not that we were good within ourselves, but because of the breath, the Spirit of God that dwells in these earthen vessels. I always say it like this. Listen, God doesn't make junk. You are of value and of worth. You are not just a mere object. You are not just a workhorse, a horse. You are human and made in the image of God. You have a right to take up space. So be mindful of when you're shrinking. Be mindful of when you are internalizing these negative stereotypes and messages that you don't belong, or that you are you're not of worth or value, right? That's why it's so important to connect with social support systems that are validating, that are affirming. Therapy can be a space where that takes place for you. I'm telling you, it's a lifeline for me. But we need spaces like that because there are so many spaces that take. Are you connected to spaces that give? We need that because we're human. I love this third one. Demand respect. Now, listen, we can't control whether we get it. I want to say that, right? And you identify what that looks like, right? But also too, that I am a human being in this space. And yes, RESPECT. Demand that respect. And even if you may not have control of whether you get it or not, but listen, you know your value and you know your worth. I love this. The fourth one. And not, it says, demand respect and not ask for permission to lead. What? Yes, right. And some of this is just really recognizing, because here's the thing. Sometimes there are people that can't see the leader in you. They don't see they don't see what God knows resides in you. But here's the key, and this is why it's so important. That's why it's so good. And we are reminded to be a Mary, where we sit at the Master's feet. Because of a God who loves you, who knows you intricately, who has purpose and divine purpose for you, who knows the truth about who you are, who has promised to give us life and life more abundantly, who has stated in the word of God that he is the vine and we are the branch. And as long as we stay connected to the vine, we have life within us. Because outside of him, we can do nothing. These are the words. These are the aspects of anchoring that you need in your life, especially when people only know you through a lens of a negative stereotype of their own experiences, but they don't know you, but you are known. Now, do you know yourself? Come on now. How do we know ourselves? We stay connected to the one who created you. Sitting at the Master's feet so you can hear, so you can receive, right? Most definitely give your praises, your thanks, your prayers, and all the things, but also be receptive. Because the word says that if we draw near to him, he will what? He will draw near to us. So that's why we get to know who we are, the leader within us, these gifts that are within us. They come from your creator, and they're not dictated by your position at work, because maybe you didn't get that promotion, but that doesn't mean that you're not a leader. That doesn't mean that takes away from your abilities and what God has purposed you to do. It may be an opportunity to focus in on, let me get that validation from God. Someone said this, and I think it's very powerful. They said, be mindful of receiving your validation and affirmation from your oppressors. Be mindful of that. I love this next part. Focus on stepping into your power. Listen, taking calculated risk, and building a life and career you don't need to escape from. Oh my goodness. You know what? Maybe we need a part 2 on this. We may need a part 2 on this, because that is so powerfully packed that I need to kind of take that apart. So we may have a part 2 on owning your voice and career. I'm going to leave you with that statement. to have us just to ponder on that. Focus on stepping into your power. What does that mean? Taking calculated risk. What does that mean for you? And building a life and a career you don't need to escape from. Yeah, part 2. Well, listen, that's all the time I have for today. As I always say, relentlessly and intentionally pursue authentic and genuine relationships vertically with God, horizontally with others, and inwardly with yourself. Maintain and sustain a keen sense of awareness and ongoing discovery about self as well as others. Take good care of you and engage in things that are helpful for your mind, body, soul, and spirit. And remember, out of the heart flows the issues of life. Let's continue to talk about it and continue our journey towards emotional healing. Until next time, bye-bye.
So I need to talk.
You've been in tuned to Talking with Dr. Toy, providing a holistic approach to emotional healing with your host, licensed professional counselor, Dr. Toy Lisa Mitchell. Please connect with me at talkingwithdrtoy.com or Facebook at Talking with Dr. Toy or email talkingwithdrtoy@gmail.com. I would love to hear your story and hear your heart regarding the issues of life you may be experiencing. Remember, out of the heart flows the issues of life. Let's continue to talk about it. I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for listening, and please join me next week for Talking with Dr. Toy.